Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine from SEB Housing, and tonight I'm going to run the lottery for the 26 affordable rental units at Lyberty Green in Falmouth. So I'm going to get the lottery underway in just a few minutes. If you have any questions during this session, you're encouraged to either type them into the chat function in Zoom, or you were muted when you came into the room, but you can always unmute yourself. You were just muted to minimize any outside noise during the drawings. So after tonight, this session is going to be saved to SEB Housing's YouTube channel. So if you're watching this after the fact, it is because you went to our channel. So just some background information first on before I do the drawing on how many applicants we had for each unit size. All of this information is going to be given to you in a email later on tonight, along with the sorted waiting list. So don't worry about needing to jot any of this down. It will be in writing for you. So all households should have their lottery application number. That's the number that was emailed to you in the form of a series of numbers. So in this case, the lottery application numbers are between A.001 and A.0103. So if you don't have that, let me know, because that is the number that's going to be drawn and the number that you're going to be looking for on the waiting list after tonight. Your name won't be called or anything like that for privacy purposes. So there's 26 affordable units. 100 total applications were received. So there's going to be 100 households in the lottery. The lottery application numbers go up to 103 because we had 3 duplicate applications that we needed to remove. So that's the reason for that. So there's 12 one-bedroom apartments, and there's 69 applicants for those 12 one-bedrooms. 3 of those one-bedrooms have disabled or hearing impairment accessible features. So applicants who require those accessible features will have priority on separate one-bedroom waiting lists. There's also 13 two-bedroom apartments. There's 23 applications for those. 2 of the 2 bedrooms also have disabled accessible features, and there's 5 applicants who require the accessibility features of those 2 bedrooms. So they will have priority on the 2-bedroom disabled accessible waiting list. There's also 1 affordable 3-bedroom apartment, and there was 15 applicants for that apartment. So that is the 1 bedrooms, as you can see, were by far the most popular in this lottery. So back when you completed your application, you will have indicated what you think your household type is, and SEB Housing would have confirmed that for you. So it's you're either considered a type 1, 2, or 3 household. And I'm mentioning that because you want to keep in mind that for the 2- and 3-bedroom waiting list, larger type 2 or 3 households will have priority over the smaller type 1 or 2 households. And that's because the program is designed so that households don't have priority for units with more bedrooms than their family might actually require. So, for example, if you're a 1-person household, you're going to be considered a type 1 household. And if you apply for a 2-bedroom unit, you are not going to have priority for that unit. So there's also local preference or priority for several of the affordable units. So if you answered yes to the local preference question on the lottery application, and we would have confirmed that for you in your eligibility email. But if you are local preference, that would mean you either live, work full-time in Falmouth, or you have a child going to Falmouth Public Schools. If you are a local preference household, you're going to also be included in a local preference drawing, because there are some waiting lists that will have priority for local preference households. I do want to mention, because this is a little bit confusing, that all households, whether or not you're local preference or do not have local preference, you will be on the waiting list, both of the waiting lists. So if you apply for a 1-bedroom, you're going to be on both the local waiting list and the general or open waiting list. If you're not a local preference household, you're just going to have a position on the local preference 1-bedroom waiting list that's behind the local preference household. So just keep that in mind. When you're looking at the waiting list later on tonight, you're going to find your application number in more than one, on more than one waiting list. So the first drawing I'm going to do tonight is going to be the local preference drawing. And how I'm going to be conducting the lottery is I'm going to do a screen share so you're able to see it happening. It is going to be using a website called random.org. So that website is going to randomize the application numbers for us, and that is going to be the lottery drawing. So I'm going to do two drawings, the local preference drawing and then the general drawing, and all 100 lottery households will be in that second drawing. There's 30 local preference households. Those are the application numbers that will be in the first local preference drawing. So the lottery numbers will be randomized instantaneously. I'm going to just do kind of a little demonstration right now to show you how that's going to work. I'm going to share my screen just for a second. This isn't the drawing yet, but I do want to show you just so you're aware of how this is going to look in a few moments. I'm going to go to random.org. I'm going to share my screen right now real quick, just for demonstration purposes. And so you should be able to see it now. This is just a really basic looking website, random.org. I'm going to scroll down to List Randomizer, and I'm going to basically be copying and pasting the lottery application numbers for each drawing into this rectangle here. So for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to type the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I do the actual drawing, it's going to, the numbers will have the format that you're familiar with. So A.001, for example. But so if this was the drawing right now, I'd be clicking randomize, and then it basically spits back a random order of the numbers. So in this case, number 3 came up first. So when I do the actual drawing in just a couple minutes, I'm going to go back into this site. So I'll share the screen with you again once I'm doing that. Just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what it looks like if you haven't participated in one of the lotteries before. So the results of the drawings tonight allows us to properly sort the results onto the waiting list. So the waiting lists are what's going to determine the order in which households get to reserve apartments. So it's important to remember that the results of the drawings tonight are not the final order of the waiting list. I first have to sort the results after this call, and I'll do that tonight. I have to sort them by household type. So if you're a type 1, type 2, type 3 household, by local preference in some cases, and also in some cases as to whether or not you needed a disabled accessible unit. So on the information packet, it gives you more information about how they're sorted, kind of what priorities go into each waiting list. I'll show you that in just a few minutes before I do the drawing. So after the lottery, like I mentioned, you'll get an email. So that'll be sometime later on tonight, and it will have more information on next steps. It will also have a copy of the waiting list attached as a PDF to that email, so you'll be able to find your lottery application number and how it's positioned on the waiting list. And keep in mind, if you were interested in more than one unit size, so if you apply for both a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom, you're going to be on more than one waiting list, and most of you are going to be on more than one waiting list anyway if you applied for a 1 or a 2-bedroom, because there's both a local and a general waiting list for the 1 and 2 bedrooms. So you're going to receive those waiting lists tonight, and the top households on each waiting list, their application number will be highlighted in green. And that's just indicating that those households are going to immediately be invited to move forward to the next step in the process. And as a reminder, that next step is to complete a lease application with the leasing office over at Lyberty Green. So your contact information will be shared with the leasing office tonight. You'll also have their contact information, so you can get in touch with them to schedule a time to begin your lease screening. So if you're found to be lease eligible, you're going to be able to reserve one of the apartments. If you're one of the top households on that waiting list and you move forward and you reserve the apartment, you're going to then be referred back to SEB Housing to submit all of your income, asset, and tax documentation. Because just as a reminder, to get into this lottery and be approved for the lottery, you had just self-reported your income. We didn't collect any pay stubs or benefit statements or anything from you yet. So you do still need to go through that process before you sign the lease. So, you're given about 10 days to do that after you've reserved an apartment. So, and we'll work with you. It's a lot of information that needs to be sent in to SDB Housing at that last step. So if you, don't have all of the information on the first try, we work with you and make sure that that you're given several chances if you need it to get that information into us. Just a couple things before I run the drawings. The first is that the management over at Lyberty Green has told us that the units will be ready for occupancy this winter. They're pre-leasing, so they should have those units ready fairly soon, or they may even be ready now, but there will not be much of a delay after you do all of your screening and after this drawing. And then finally, we like to just remind everybody that anyone who's living in an affordable apartment, you will need to have a recertification each year with the leasing office. So you just want to make sure and be prepared about 3 months ahead of your lease renewal. So if you signed a lease for January 1st, around this time, or maybe sometime in September or October next year, you would need to submit your income and tax information to the leasing office so they can confirm your eligibility for the program. So just either maintain a file or just make sure that you have access to, bank statements and pay stubs and stuff like that online. Let me know if you have any questions before I do the drawing. I'm also going to share my screen again just to show you what I was talking about on the waiting list in the information packet. So I'm pulling that up now. These are the waiting lists. This is how I'm going to be sorting the results tonight. So I don't know if it's too small on your screen, but so as you can see, there's 3 local preference waiting lists. There's 4 open waiting lists. If you applied for a 1-bedroom, you're going to be on at least these 2 waiting lists. And if you're local preference, you will have priority on the local preference waiting list. If you don't have priority, you're still going to be on the 1-bedroom waiting list. You just won't have priority for it. So keep in mind, just as a heads up, that's kind of what I'm doing later on after the drawings. I'll be sorting the results onto the waiting list based off of this order of priority. All right, so I'm going to go back to random.org. If anybody has any questions, like I said, let me know, but I'm going to do the drawing. And I'll give you an opportunity to, I'll scroll down so you can see the results, but if you can't see it or if you've called in and you're not able to see the screen right now, you can let me know your lottery application number and I can let you know the position that you were drawn in tonight's lottery. But again, just a reminder that these aren't the waiting lists yet. After I do this drawing, it's just giving you a little more information about where you might be slotted on the waiting list when the time comes. All right, so I'm back into the list randomizer. I'm going to go to a list I have here with the 30 application numbers that represent the 30 households who have local preference. So I'm going to do the local preference drawing first. I am copying and pasting 30 application numbers right now. And this is the local preference drawing for Lyberty Green and Falmouth. All right, so those are the results of the drawing for local preference. I'm going to, as you can see, number 41 was first. I'm going to copy the results onto this spreadsheet here just so it's a little bit easier to read. And then just give me a minute while I make it even easier to read. And then I will come back to these results after I do the second drawing. All right, so that was the local preference drawing. These are all the local preference households. Now I'm going to exit out completely just to go back into do the general drawing. And this is a general drawing for Lyberty Green and Falmouth. I'm going to select all 100 application numbers and I'm going to put them here so we can randomize them and do the drawing. So 61 was first, A.0061. I'm going to copy these results again, and I'm going to allow you to obviously take a look at them. And if you can't see them, can't see the results in just a minute, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you. If you can't see it, let me know. I'm going to maximize as much as I can. Okay, so these are the results for local preference. If you're a local preference household, this is the order that you were drawn in the local preference drawing. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. It goes down to number 30. All right, and now I'm going to go to the general drawing. I'm going to maximize this a little bit more for you. And I'm going to scroll down these 100 numbers. Drawn first was number A.0061, and I'm scrolling from there. So I'm down to number 80, and so I'll be all the way down at 100. And then if you didn't see your number and you would like me to look it up for you, please let me know either in the chat function or by unmuting yourself, and I will look it up for you. And again, these are going to be, you know, these drawing results are allowing me to generate the waiting list after tonight. So I will be referencing these when I put together the waiting list, and then you'll get that email later on tonight. All right, so A.0055. We'll look that up for you. And you were drawn 72nd in the general drawing, not on the waiting list. I'm sorry, not on the local list. Anyone else not able to see it that wants me to look it up? Let's give you another minute. If not, like I said, you just have to keep an eye out tonight for the waiting list that will be sent to you, and your application number will be on one or more of those waiting lists, probably at least two, unless you apply for a 3-bedroom. All right, so just keep an eye out for that. If no one else has any other questions, then you will hear from me. The email will come from info@scbhousing.com. So keep an eye out for that in your inbox, and I appreciate you joining us. We will be in touch very soon. Have a good evening.